What's up,
Oh,
Chris? It's Tuesday.
it is Tuesday, which means it's cooking day around our house here. And so Jay, I was mentioning to you before we started the show, my wife caught me to cut some onions right before the show here. So I'm looking a little red-eyed, got some sniffles. That's it's not because my it's not because my dog got hit by a car or anything. It's
Well,
onions,
I hear you.
onions and
I
garlic.
hear
Whew.
you. So, I mean, if I was you, I would have had your AI twin done that, but that's a whole other story.
So Jay, apropos, relevant, right? AI isn't just coming; it's already here. My AI twin, I forgot about him.
Yes.
Um, what a mistake! What a mistake! Welcome, 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 everyone, to the Practice Playbook, the show where we help you to modernize your firm. Today, Jay has alluded to it, and so have I. We're talking about AI, the state of AI in accounting today, what accountants should be doing, and maybe what you should not be doing. And we're gonna ask a question and hopefully give you some guidance as to what your answer should be, and that is: Are you riding the AI train, or are you stuck at the AI station? Jay, are you riding the AI train?
Oh, I am falling off the train. I am so deep into the AI train.
Yeah, I mean that feels about right to me. Jay, there's a we talk about it. It seems like every episode for something that's happening or another. Um, AI is happening all over the place. It's happening in lots of different ways, and the tools just keep on coming and keep on getting better. Um, some of the main trends that are happening in accounting today, so like some of these main topics, the state of AI, if you would. Um, there's obviously an explosion of tools, right? Jay, when how many times have you been in ChatGPT today?
Today, probably 4 or 5.
Yeah,
That
right.
doesn't include the times that my automations have used it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Jay, a year ago, what would you say 1 year ago? So March 25th, 2024. How often were you in ChatGPT?
Uh, Probably half as much as I was now, but
Yeah,
I was an early
an
adopter,
early
so
adopter.
I was in it
Sure.
anyway.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah,
right. And so the point is, like, even people who are early adopters, even people who are tech forward, have doubled their exposure to tools like this. There's tools like ChatGPT, of course. There's tools like Copilot that's embedded within Microsoft. Jay, do you use Copilot much?
actually, a little bit more than I have in the past. Yeah,
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 yeah. I'm gonna have to investigate some of the things that we can do in there. And of course, there's AI starting to be embedded in tools like in Xero, and other tools that are out there as well. Firms are adopting AI faster, right? You get all of the news from Jason Stats about the AI that you can utilize, and then you start implementing that. You start to listen to us on the Practice Playbook talk about the different things you can do in AI, and you start to implement that. So they're building this infrastructure, which means that accounting firms also need to be building policies. And I know I talked to one of my RSM friends, who works for a smaller local firm, recently, and he mentioned, like, we kind of don't want people to use it that much right now because we don't know all of the implications. And so I thought that was a pretty interesting way to think about it, right? Of what uh, what are the policies around your team's AI utilization, and what do you want them to be able to feel comfortable doing, and be able to do in in addition to that, right? I think one important thing of what AI is doing, Jay, and you can expand on this. I think AI is automating the what, but it's not yet automating the why or the how. Does that feel right, Jay?
starting to get there.
Right.
So
I do feel that way too.
we had a conversation Friday on a different podcast
Yep.
relating to e-commerce and
Right.
a, agentic AI that's being used in e-commerce, and that agentic AI is starting to look at the why and the how.
Right.
Um, you know, and you look at tools based AI, not as much, But when you're looking at the agents, the AI agents, it's starting to do that. It's doing the reasoning. It's
Right.
it's determining which direction to go and how to respond. It is actually doing some of that. So I think, this came up, at a perfect time for us. And, you know, it's like on Friday, it's like, oh my God, Chris, you suggested this. And this is what I'm working on today. And I was
That's
actually
right.
starting to work on AI agents, which, I build AI automations.
Hmm.
And, you hear a lot of confusion in what the TikTokosphere. I mean, it used to be the Twittersphere. Now it's, I mean, on TikTok, it's like, you got to be using AI agents. And it's like, that's not an agent. That's an AI automation.
Right.
And,
That's a tool.
basically I'm saying, do this, connect it to this, give me this, and spit it out over there. The
Yeah, it's following the rules.
agents, right? The agents, you're not giving it the rule. You're not telling it what to do. The
Right.
agent is determining that, and it actually works. Um,
Yep.
yeah. So
Absolutely. I think that's actually a great example because in the end, and this is what our notes say. What the AI told us about actually in our notes here today is that AI is like a runaway train, Jay. It's moving fast and it's not waiting for anyone. And that's exactly a point, right? Is that AI has been automating the what, and not the how and why, but it's starting to be able to do that too.
yep.
And that's exactly why it is so important that AI adoption is not optional anymore. Like you can't
Yeah.
wait around,
Yeah.
or you can't.
You go back 3 years. The hot
Right.
topic was RPA, robotic
Mm-hmm.
process automation,
Yep.
and that is basically AI automation. You tell it what
Right.
to do, you give it instructions, and it's like you have it learning keystrokes, and as soon as that button moves a quarter of an inch, boom, error, and it can't move on. So
Right.
it's like, how do we get past that? And that's where the agents come into play, and where the agentic AI is going to take us. We're not
Right.
going to have to give every instruction, and we are getting to that point.
Of course. Right. And so again, it's not optional anymore because we're getting to that point. And so it's not just adopting AI. You're going to have to do that. The real question now is how you adopt that AI.
Right.
And so we're going to talk through a couple things that from here, right? We're going to talk about a couple of things that you need to stop doing, a couple of things that you should probably start doing. We'll talk through how to lead your firms in this, and how being a human is still important. So Jay, let's get started with that. What should people stop doing? So I think the most important thing that people should stop doing, and Jay, you can correct me if you think this is not the most important thing people should be doing, but the most important thing is stop fearing AI as a job killer. It is not going to take your job. It is going to complement your job. Jay, do
The
you agree?
the only job it's going to take is that person that does not embrace the AI.
Right. That's
It's
fair.
all it's going to do is give you a deeper toolkit to allow you to do more and get so much more accomplished by spending the same amount of time you were doing before. It's going to
Yeah.
make you so much more efficient in what you're doing that it's going to make you look like a rock star.
Right. And by making yourself more efficient, one of the things that you absolutely have to stop doing, stop clinging to outdated workflows. So just because you used to do it that way doesn't mean you should do it that way anymore. Jay, I know we would talk about this more broadly before this mass
Yeah.
adoption of AI, right? This was always the way that we would have approached things. Is like there's not necessarily a perfect way. You should be considering ways to improve and make your workflows better as it is. Now with AI implementation, the old outdated workflows are really really going to be outdated. So change them, improve them, make them better.
Yeah.
Jay, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a good example of this. Do you have like a good example of an outdated workflow that AI can disrupt?
Well,
Or maybe
before
one
we
should
get
look at it.
there, you know,
Yeah.
in past lives, I used to be a trainer and run back offices for firms. And yeah, walk into a firm that we just recently purchased, and you train somebody on something, and like, this, yeah, I can't do it that way. This is the way we've always done it. And I'm like, that is the
Mm.
last time I'm going to hear that. Because if you're sitting there, look at, first of all, you don't work for the company that used to do it that way. You now work for us, and this is the way we do it. But
Right.
those outdated workflows. I mean, I can't think of one off the top of my head at the moment,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
you always want to look at your workflows and update them. And you know, it's no different than workflow and process automation. When you're looking at putting AI into it, you have to know exactly how that workflow works, because, and you've heard me say this many times, if you have a roadblock in that workflow and you add tech, automation, or now AI, all you're going to do is get to that roadblock faster, or that AI is going to go off in so many different directions, you're not going to be able to keep up with it. So
That's right. Yeah. Try to
map
go
your
around the roadblock.
processes, map every workflow you have. And it should be a process you do at least on an annual basis, is to make sure you're mapping and tracking your changes to your workflows.
Yeah. And especially now with how quickly technology is changing, waiting till next year to do it is probably a little bit long. Like you want to be thinking about how those workflows are working on a more regular basis, just so that you can identify those areas where there may be a tool already that exists that can help you to improve it and make it better. One thing that I don't see accountants doing as much, but that if you are doing this, you should definitely stop, and that's ignoring the governance and ethical risks. So don't do that, because there are parts of AI that could pose those types of issues. So don't ignore those. I think especially some of the bigger firms, I've seen lots of conversation around this. I think a lot of those firms, and again, even the friend of mine that I was talking about, like that's exactly why they were saying like you can use it here, but don't use it everywhere, because we have some uncertainty around what the risks are with uploading client data into it and all of those kinds of things, right? You want to be really thoughtful around how you build your policies around that, because you don't want to set yourself up for some kind of exposure that maybe you weren't intending to expose yourself to. And then, what do you think around governance, Jay? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, put guardrails in place to what
Right.
you're doing, and make sure that you can't break through those guardrails. Like you
Yep.
mentioned, don't put client data out there. It's okay, anonymize the data and use it, but strip all of the client facing information so it can't be identified. It's possible some of that might be in the chart of accounts or in the descriptions. Try to strip it out if you can. You
Yeah.
know, I try not to put names and other data like that in a chart of accounts. Sometimes you do. I mean, in some cases you're looking at a balance sheet and you have owners' names or capital
Yeah.
accounts. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
Things to be
It is
thinking
what it is.
about. As you're doing that. So
Absolutely. Um, and then the last one, and I think this is maybe one of the most important takeaways from today. Don't delay tech adoption waiting for it to be perfect, or waiting for yourself to build out the perfect workflow. Like that's just not necessary. In fact, oftentimes what I've learned recently, as I've been using ChatGPT even more frequently, is sometimes you could just ask. Well, this is the thing that I see as the problem. Like, how can I work around that problem? Or is there anything that I can do about that one, or am I just going to have to be stuck there? Right? Some of these language models may be able to help you to decipher ways and solutions that you weren't even considering. So don't delay tech adoption, waiting for it to be perfect and waiting for your workflow to be perfect. To that is just going to make you get run over by the runaway train, right, Jay?
what is perfection? I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's kind of like CAS. What is CAS? It's like there's so many definitions of perfection, and
Yeah.
it's something that you may never achieve.
maybe
And
never.
so I've always worked under now is better than perfect. And go ahead, release the Kraken, get in there, start using the the AI and take advantage of it.
Right, absolutely. No question. And so that's a perfect segue, Jay, into how can people be taking advantage of AI? So what should accountants start doing already? Some of these things I definitely think that if you haven't kind of like thought about them or have at least started to integrate them in some capacity, like you, what are you doing? So the first one, actually, I'm just gonna like feed back onto what we talked about before, right? So it's really important to start building ethical guidelines and internal AI policies.
Yeah.
So if you don't have one, you need to do that now, um, because you do want to be able to guide your team on this is what we want to use AI for. This is the kind of information that we want to use the language models for and include in the language models. This is where you can use our own GPT that we're building out or something like this, right? Like all of those types of things are important factors that you want to consider, and that will help keep you from exposing yourself in a way you don't want to be exposed. So definitely do that. And it's the same situation, Jay. I think you don't need this policy to be the most perfect policy in the history of time. You need this just to
For
be a
sure.
policy.
Yeah.
So you want to have something in place rather than wait around and just see what happens.
Yeah, the policy is going to evolve. I mean,
Right,
because as the technology is evolving and getting better, so is
right,
your process and your guidance that you're going to build around it with your policies. So just
absolutely,
get a start, get it out there, and have a champion that's going to manage those policies
right,
for you. They can stay on top of it, and they're the ones that are going to get the education and understand what's going on in the AI world, and
yeah,
charge them with having responsibility of updating your policies.
yeah. And you can also charge them with this next thing that you should start doing, and that's training your team on digital skills. And so you want to make sure that your team, all layers of your team, understand what AI is, how AI works, what are the things that you can do with it, how all of those policy things that we just talked about. Start giving them the skills to be able to utilize these tools, to be able to facilitate and support their own success. Because one of the most interesting things about AI, I think, and this is part of we've talked about this before on I think on this show as well. Um, we we're kind of at the surface. Like the language models maybe like have all the information that they can have, but people haven't done all the things that they can do, and people haven't explored everything that there is to explore within these models. Right? There are questions that are still maybe needing that you can ask and get different answers. Right? And so if you make sure that you're coaching your teams on the best ways to use these things, you may find that your team identifies something that you hadn't before, and there may be a new policy or a procedure that you can adapt and adopt because your team members started to use the same tools. And so I think that that's a thing that makes it so important uh, for for making sure that your team is trained on these digital skills. Jay, do you have any extra thoughts on that? No.
I mean, I learned Excel 15 years ago. Is there more to learn? No, I mean,
Yeah,
honestly.
definitely not. Definitely.
Yeah.
Excel, Jay. It's done. Game over.
Yeah. The thing about it is keep expanding your skills because that's what's going to come down to it. And, you know, everybody has a prompt for something. Prompt
Yeah.
engineering
Right.
is pretty smart. But, you know, what I've done, I've taken a few courses to learn how to hone some of those skills. But the thing is, you get more specific and more guidance to the AI, the better it's going to be. So the more detailed you get, the more comfortable you are getting more detailed, the better it's going to be. So just keep
Yeah.
trying and keep playing with it. And, I don't want to jump ahead on our task here, but, you know,
Yeah.
one of the things that Chris is going to tell you to do is start doing small little things. Well, I'm not going to jump into that, but use it for things other than accounting and figure that out. Use it
Right.
for your social media. Use it for your blog posts. There are ways to make it sound like you and train it. But the
Yeah.
key to all of that is you have to pay for it. The free
Yeah.
versions can only go so far. It's not
Right.
going to allow you to save information in it. It's got a much lower memory threshold. So by
Mm.
paying for it, you could actually save documents in there that hold transcripts of you speaking and other details about you and your services and your policies. And by doing that, when you're using it, it's going to understand and respond like you. And it's only going to make those things better. And by doing it on some of those things that aren't related to accounting, it's there's no risk to it. You
Right.
post it on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, and well, yeah, that post has way too many emojis in it. We know that's AI. It's not a big deal because people forgive that. And then you search. It's like, wait, there's nothing wrong with too many emojis. That's all good. But so don't be afraid of it. And then I'll let Chris take it from there. You jump in on the accounting side.
Right. Yeah. And so that means to start automating low value tasks. That can be basic reconciliation, that can be basic data entry. And you can couple that with some of the stuff that Jay was talking about. Like if you utilize AI to help build out your client onboarding profile, right? If somebody sends you an email and says, I'm interested, and you then like extract all of the information and allow an AI tool to build out the data entry into your CRM, like what a perfect use case. This is there's really not like a lot of better ways to do and utilize AI, right? It is those low value, at least right now, right? Those low value task based. I need you to do X, Y, and Z on repeat, um, that allow it to succeed. And so with that considered, right, that is the one of the first places to start automating. The other thing, and Jay, you didn't mention it exactly in this. You talked about starting to do new things, but some of the areas where you can start to do new things is to start experimenting with advisory or forecasting or analysis. And so use those numbers or information or stories that are out there on the internet of what's going on right now to help give yourself an idea of what you should be expecting when you look at financial statements, or what you should be expecting when you're looking at a very specific kind of financial statement. Ask the what's happening in the environment around this type of company right now, so that you can provide extra advice and extra support to your clients that may be in that exact same space. Um, those types of things, if you start experimenting with them now, you'll know, how can I prompt better? What can I do differently? What was the question I really needed to ask, or what uh what was the answer I was really looking for? Those types of things, I think, if you're experimenting with them now, as those tools get more powerful, and maybe as those agents get more powerful, you'll be able to really start to integrate them into your own workflows more effectively. But that takes trying it now, and not being afraid that it's going to give you a bad answer. Like for the most part, you can validate some of these things, right? If you get an answer that you just like, that doesn't make any sense, follow up with a different kind of search. Do read some articles around it. Ask it for some support. Like, I understand you said that. Can you send me a link around that particular thing? That's really interesting. I wasn't aware, right? Like, there are a lot of things that you can do along the way that help you to build out your ability to experiment in areas where maybe you haven't thought about doing it before. Um, and you never know, right? That one time you might build a thing that ends up being the most effective thing that you've built so far because you asked the right set of questions. Jay, when you think about advisory services and advisory practices and implementing AI as an experimental tool, are there things that you can see or imagine that maybe I haven't talked about already that can be great use cases here?
Well, I can definitely see somebody that's up and coming, coming up through the ranks. They haven't done the advisory part yet, and
Right.
they could export some financial statements to Excel, upload them, and ask
Mm-hmm.
the AI to analyze them, give them some tips on how,
What to look for?
what
Yeah.
to look for exactly. And by getting some of that from the AI, they have a better idea of what they're looking at, and
Mm.
then go back and ask it, hey, and basically prompt it, hey, you are a high class or a high tech advisor, and you do this, 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 and this. What are the questions I should be asking my client related to these financial statements to help them determine what needs to be, you know, resolved or whatever the issues may be? And
Right.
that way you could start getting those skills and being comfortable and being able to take the approach, hey, Mr. Supervisor, I want to talk to the client this month. Let me do it. And that way you don't have to worry about not knowing what you're doing because you have your little AI sidekick there helping you get those results.
Right. Yeah, and so I think Jay, the way that you outlined it right there is a nice case, and again, our outline we've provided here has a nice little summary around this, right? Test, train, transform, triple T. So you want to test on small use cases. So exactly like Jay was describing. Hey, let me take this set of financials, drop it in. Let me do a little testing. Use that to train your team internally. So just exactly like Jay was talking about. Hey, what kinds of things should I be looking for? What kinds of questions should I be asking? And then use that to transform both your workflows and the value that you're providing to your client. And I think we kind of outlined exactly how you can do that in exactly these situations. So um, I think that can be a really, really powerful way to utilize these tools. And Jay, I think when it all comes down to it, this next point is the one that ends up being the most powerful. We are not at the point where AI is going to go and have a human conversation with your client about the different pieces of advice that they need, right? Emotional intelligence, ethics, judgment, relationships, all of those things still matter. And so because of that, like advisory is not dead. Back to the point, right? AI is not taking your advisory related job. It's being enhanced because you're able to ask better questions because you can use this like wide swath of data to be able to ask what's the thing that I should be asking? What's the thing I didn't think about that might really help? Or what's the piece of advice that someone else has given or that's out there in 3 articles or whatever it might be that would be really relevant to my client in this space? AI is going to enhance that ability for you, not replace that ability for you. And so, go ahead, Jay.
I was just going to say there are so many times you're sitting down with a client during an emotional time, and it takes you and your knowledge and you having feelings and understanding to actually sit down and talk through it. Whether it's the death of a spouse or a partner in a business,
Yeah.
it's a divorce, or good times like your children graduating from college or going off to college and having the wherewithal to talk about where the funding is going to come to pay for that 4-year degree. So
Mm-hmm.
AI will help you with the data, but it, like you said, it does not have the emotional intelligence to have those conversations.
Yeah. Right. AI has the data, but not always the context.
Right.
Right. So it may understand all of the underlying specific information, but not how it relates to things. And Jay, we mentioned this when I first looked at the outline that you prepared here. This next little statement is kind of the main theme that we would talk about as we talk about AI. AI can crunch the numbers, right? AI can do the what's, but it just can't build trust in the same way that a person can. That just
Yep.
is not how it works. It doesn't build relationships in the same way. And so those types of things, those skills are number one skills that you want to make sure that you're training your team on, right? You want to make sure that they understand the things to look out for, the ways to react to people, all of the stuff that goes along with that. and you want them to also be building those relationships in that same way, right? Like these are that's the real opportunity to win, right? Is by being able to add that value. Um, so when you think about that, I think that leads into or transitions into like what should you be doing or how should you be leading your firm through this AI shift? So like what are the things that you need to be doing or thinking about? And the first one I think, Jay, and I'd like your thoughts on this because I think especially as if you pull back to your past, right? If you're building a culture of experimentation and not fear, like what are the steps that you can take to make sure that that's the case, right? That's one of the things you want to do. Build this experimentation culture. How can you facilitate that? Are there things that you should be doing or thinking about along the way?
Yeah, it goes back to even like training new Xero bookkeepers.
Yeah.
Go ahead and make your entry. It's not going to kill anybody if it's wrong. We could
Right.
easily edit it or delete it and start over. It's not going to be a killer. So
Right.
jump in there and try it. And the worst that can happen, got to redo something. It's not a big deal. Uh, you know, I think the greatest part of Xero is having the demo company where you can go in and try things like that. Because early on, I would do an implementation or something, and I had one case where I had 11,000 invoices I was importing, so I would import them into the test company, and not worry about it. Although you could actually do it in the regular company because you still have to accept it. They're all in its drafts. You can delete the drafts, whatever. But you're testing it and you're getting comfortable, and that's the
Right.
same thing here. Just go sign up. I mean, if you have a Gmail account, log in with your Gmail account, log into ChatGPT and test it. Check out Perplexity and see what it can do for you. Check out Claude. They all still do so many different things and are great with different things. Uh, I am currently doing things that I am not comfortable with, and I am using AI to help me find my way through doing some coding on some projects, which we've
Yeah.
talked about, the landed cost calculator
Yeah.
for one.
Uh-huh.
But now I'm actually jumping into the world of Azure and building out apps and other things like that. So I am
Right.
using AI to help me with it, and I'm experimenting there to get the detail. And in some cases, I mean, step by step, it takes me through it, and you click go, and it worked. I built my first app on my phone, my pizza dough calculator, that way.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so now I'm actually trying to build apps on Azure, and I haven't been successful. It's only been 2 days,
Yeah.
but I haven't really had a lot of time to play. So, but
Well, Jay, let me ask you the question here, right? Like
yeah,
this is the thing. Let's say you built that app and it doesn't work. Like, what's the downside?
the downside is I've wasted 10 minutes. The
Right.
upside
Exactly.
is I get another shot and I say, okay, ChatGPT, that didn't work. Here's the error that I'm getting. Oh, try this.
That's right.
And then you go one step further in the process.
Yeah.
And it's incremental success, and that's how it works. But
Right.
you wouldn't know if you didn't try. And you got to jump in
Right.
there and give it all you got. And if you're not failing, you're not learning. So get
Right.
out there and test it and play with it and make it work for you.
That's right. Um, there are lots of people that are doing experimentation with AI. So one of the things that you could also do to support yourself in this is follow those people. Find those people on LinkedIn or on Twitter or even on TikTok if they're out there, like Jay, um, and see what they're doing to do this too, right? Like building experimentation isn't just doing it all on your own. It's just being willing to try something different. A second thing that you can do to help lead your firm through this shift to AI is one that we've already talked about, and that's make upskilling part of your team development. Like all of those things, all of those relationship-based things, the trust-building things, those are all important developmental skills that you need to make sure that your team has the ability to get. and to be able to receive, because those are things that you're either doing through practice. Most of the time, you're not reading a lot of those things in a book. It's not going to be quite that way, right? But that means that you need to take an active approach to your team development in this way. And then we also mentioned this back before, is you want to make sure that they have the digital skills that they need. So you need to upskill them in that way as well. So there are two sets of skills that you definitely need to be focusing on, making sure upskilling is part of your team's development plan. Jay mentioned this at the very top here. One other thing that you can do is assign an AI champion inside your firm, right? Someone who is going to support the utilization of AI, help you with that build out, build the policies, do some of the training around those digital skills. Find that person who loves this the way that we do, and let them run with it. Let them be the person who owns that experimentation and who owns that training process. You'll find that those people exist, and this may be an awesome opportunity for them to be able to develop themselves. And then finally, consider like a tech audit. So think about the tools that you're using. We talked a little bit about this, I guess 2 weeks ago in the e-commerce hour, about how taking a look at the things that are in your operating expense, all those tools that you're using, making sure that you're still using them. Like that remains true here, and especially because there are so many different tools out in the marketplace, that if you are doing that experimentation, it's very easy to maybe forget one that you were experimenting with and that you're not using anymore. And then on top of that, you want to understand how all those things are connecting together. So you don't want to just waste your time with these tools. You want to make sure you've built out a thoughtful workflow to utilize these tools in a powerful way. Jay, if you think about starting a tech audit, how would you go about that?
Just going through every piece of tech you're using in the firm.
Yeah.
Yeah, starting down with basically capturing the cost of it, how many users are in it, what it's used for, how many processes it's used for, what is it connected to, what's the support structure like, and in support experience and the user experience of the apps. And it's no different than when you're talking about apps and doing app advisory. You want to look at the apps that you have, look at the alternative apps, see what they each have that is complementary to each other, what is different from each other, and then you should have a relationship with the apps that you are using, so that you can reach out and say, "Hey, I'm missing that. I need that in your app now." And if they don't put it on the roadmap, it's maybe something to consider making a change. The apps that we use, I know, are always open to hearing what features we need or what we want. Recently, I was on with one of our team members, and she was hammering this guy. You need to have this. And he's like, well, I'm going to bring it to the team. So that's all we could ask is they take it and they want to, build the best product that they can. So they want to know what we want in those apps. So take advantage of that. And you can't do that if you don't have a good knowledge of what you're currently using.
Right. Absolutely. And so, Jay, if we were to just leave folks with a super simple roadmap here, between now and next week, everyone, here's your list. You ready for the list? It's we got four things for you. Four things for you. First, find a workflow to automate. Consider which one you want. Review it. Find that workflow and give it an audit. Just like Jay was just talking about. That's one thing. Thing number two, find an AI tool and practice it with your team. So try an AI tool with your team. Say, here's a tool. We're going to use it. We're going to spend 30 minutes on it today. Here's how it's going to work. And then try it. Maybe you like it. Maybe you don't like it. Maybe it's amazing. Maybe it's terrible. But there's only one way to find out, and that's to try. Third thing that you can do is very similar, kind of related, is to host a lunch and learn on AI. So talk a little bit about it with your team. Have those conversations with your team around AI more broadly, and understand how they're using AI either in their own personal life or maybe in their work life already. And then finally, we would be irresponsible if we didn't advise you to write an internal policy on responsible use of AI. And in fact, what I would advise is use AI to write one internal policy on responsible use of AI. Um, Jay, Jay, if you were thinking about some key takeaways, some easy steps that you can take between now and maybe the end of the month, or maybe right after 4:15 potentially, right? What steps did we leave off here?
There's a few things that come to mind. You're going to jump in and use an AI tool. You know, look at, and I constantly go back to content because I find it to be the easiest thing to learn on. So,
Mm,
if you're a small firm and you have social media, find a way to populate some of those social medias with a tool like make.com. If you don't have make.com, reach out, make a comment. I will get you a free trial and give you some operations there. But use that to connect it with ChatGPT and then to post on Meta or TikTok, X, whatever your platform of choice is. And that's a great way of learning and playing and getting something under your belt. And
hmm
to me, the greatest thing is building X posts because there's certain limits to it, and prompting that properly. And
Yeah,
just for today, actually, I have built a assistant playground, whatever you want to call it,
sure.
and I asked it to do the social media for this. And when I did it, it was pretty nondescript. You're only capable of populating 240 characters. So, I want to make sure that I highlight High Rock Accounting. I want to highlight Chris. I want to highlight me. So that's a lot of characters. So, what I started doing is threading those. And I'm like, okay, give me this. And you ask specifically what you're looking for. And I said, I want to build a max 3-thread X post. Please give me this in the best format possible. And basically, I seeded it with the YouTube link for this and said, have at it. And out it came. And
No.
I probably could automate that, but I didn't because I'm building this assistant to do these automations, and I
Right.
wasn't really thinking of the threading of the Twitter post, X post. But now I'm going to build that into my instructions on how to do that, so that we can
Right.
push that out. And so every time you're doing this, you're learning and doing something new because you get an output and it's like, oh, that's what I wanted to do. The other thing is, like the thumbnail for this, that was like the 5th iteration. I took the same prompt, put it in 4 different tools, and got 4 very different responses there. And the one that I'm using was the tool I least expected it to work on. And
Oh
then
wow.
using the paid tools, basically you want two sides. Overworked accountant, AI enabled accountant, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't do it. It wouldn't do the split screens. So basically, finally, the last tool I used, which was not the one I expected, did the best job at it.
Wow.
And then I have another custom GPT that I use that analyzes it, and things like that. So you pick up all these tips by using the different tools, and it helps you craft better prompts, and that's what it comes down to. And whether you're doing it manually in the app or you're doing it through a make automation or N8N automation, you're building those prompts and you're putting them, instead of typing them in the app on the website, you're building them into the automations, and you can keep honing them and utilizing them the same way. But it's different iterations. You're not actually getting the immediate feedback, although you can with make. You just have to run that portion of the automation immediately. But but having it is amazing, and seeing the iteration from step 1 to step 5, or iteration 1 to iteration 5, it's just so fulfilling, and to get that out. And I'm at the point now where I create our show, and based on that and our show notes, it's going to do the rest of it for us. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So be thinking about the ways that you can use AI and the ways that it can impact your firm that way, because it can be really powerful. And so if you've done something like that already, if there's some workflow that you've already reviewed and implemented AI, we'd love to hear your thoughts about how you like it and what you did. We very much are experimenters and love to hear all the new and interesting ways people are using technology. If you haven't already, follow the Practice Playbook out on YouTube. We come to you every week at 4 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Eastern Time, right here on Tuesday, just like today. And we'll be here next week to talk about something relevant, probably with 415 around the corner. I'm guessing it might be tax related, but we'll see. It could but the one thing that you can definitely count on is that we'll be here to talk about something that will make your life better as a firm owner or wannabe firm owner, and that's why we hope that you stayed this long to watch the show. So thank you for spending time with us today. We are the Practice Playbook, and we'll be back next week. Thanks for watching, Jay. Any final thoughts?
Don't hesitate. Jump in. Don't be afraid of it. It's a great technology, and it will only make you more efficient.
So, only make you more efficient.
And you have questions, let us know. We got the answers for you.
Mince. And if we don't, we're going to ask AI and try and get them for you.
That's right. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Y'all have a great week. We'll see you right back here on the Practice Playbook next week.
See you, everybody.